In today's episode, not the support they had in mind. How do I turn on the computer? Issues with Surface. Why can't I get online? My little client machine is magic. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Not the support they had in mind. Some years ago, so details are fuzzy and identified to protect my own personal backside. About halfway through my previously mentioned 20-ish year stint at a major medical research institution, my position, along with those of several other developer/sysadmin personnel, were reassigned from the department that oversees/administers the research processes to the IS department, which hadn't wanted our systems, but changed its mind once they became important. The move had some upsides to it, one of which was reduced contact with Catherine. Catherine was a bully and user of people, also something of a kiss-up, and a long-term member of a department that had come to weigh seniority more heavily than ability, so it worked for her. I didn't work for or directly with her, so she mostly ignored me, which I appreciated. Not long after I'd realized that my reassignment meant I no longer answered to, nor needed tolerate the antics of my previous department, its VP announced in the institutional newsletter that a new function was being deployed, in 2 weeks, to the system of which I had the primary care and feeding. Setting such a feature up was highly non-trivial, requiring significant changes to the most complex and easily disrupted portions of the application. It was also something only I was in a position to pull off at all, and this was the very first I had ever heard of it. They had never bothered to tell me they were even considering it, never mind asking if it was technically feasible, how long it might take, or if my new, not controlled by them at all reporting structure would agree to my doing it. After pondering and poking things for a while, I decided that what they were announcing was, in fact, possible, given about 2 months of dedicated attention and effort. That would just get things to the stage where I could pass it along to the folks in my former department to test, which had a history of requiring 2 full months of active, vigorous browbeating to make happen at all. Shortly after I'd reached these conclusions, Catherine called me. The same reorg that shifted me to IS elevated Catherine from manager to director, giving her nearly a dozen people to manage. When I saw her name on the caller ID, I knew exactly what the call was about. I answered the phone with a professionally polite "Hey, Catherine, anyway," which was briefly followed by the sort of small talk you'd expect between two people who had recently worked near each other for a decade. Once she felt she had softened me up some, she got to the point of her call. Surprisingly, this took the form of asking me if the system could be modified to add a significant new feature. She was playing it as if this were a first discussion. To be fair, it was, of a new feature they'd like to add, rather than one that had been announced that morning as something about to roll out. Since I'd had a chance to think it through, I was able to tell her that what they wanted was, indeed, feasible, and would take 8 weeks. I fully expected an explosion and demand that I do the work in 2 because it had already been announced as rolling out then, but it didn't happen. She must have realized the implications of my changed reporting structure, because she never mentioned that detail at all. She spent some time trying to persuade me that I really could do it in a week and a half, at one point, rather amusingly to me, asked if I couldn't do it for her. I've no idea what view of our relationship she held at that point, but it bore no resemblance whatsoever to my own. I explained politely that if I even tried to do it that quickly, all that would happen was that I would entirely break the system, which I could do in about 10 minutes if she really wanted it to happen. She was not nearly so amused by this as I was. Eventually, they did go through channels to ask my management to task me with the project. It did, in fact, require about 7 weeks, because it was a bear, but I pushed on it as much as I felt prudent. It worked as intended and was deployed pretty quickly after that. I never learned who dropped the ball about coordinating the work with me. It may have been Catherine, or she may simply have decided cleaning up the mess would make her look good. I do know that she totally ignored me, wouldn't even say hello back to me for about 6 months. I strongly suspect she viewed this as some sort of punishment. Another thing we viewed differently. How do I turn on the computer? Long story short, I recently went on vacation, but dollar users still had my number and, because I'm too kind, I told them if they had a serious issue they could call me. For context, I've been providing support for this user for years now, even as a youngling. Well, before doing IT work on the side, pretty much every machine they use has been set up and maintained by me, and every time they had a new machine, I explained to them, every day for a week, how to do things. Because apparently, changing a physical machine, even keeping a familiar, if not the same interface, as they've been using for years, makes them entirely lost as to how to start their email and administrative things, aka, launch Firefox and click the bookmarks. This is most of their use: receiving, sending emails, printing and scanning, and doing tasks on administrative websites, and has been the same use for the past decade. Well, anyway, it of course didn't last long. One evening I get a call from $user. $user, hey, so, I gotta do this important administrative thing, but I don't know how to turn on the computer. Me, wait, what? $user, there was a power outage since you left, and I don't know how to turn the computer back on. Me, well, you press the power button. Like on your previous machine. And the one before that. And your phone. And your tablet. $user, okay, where is it? Me, where I showed you a few times, and like every other machine you had, there is a big button on the top of the machine with the power logo, the little eye and the rounded U. $user, oh. That worked. But it's asking me for a code. Me, yes, your code, the one that we set up together that you insist to use since forever. $user, oh right. Okay. How do I get to my emails then? There is one I need to check quickly. Me, start the web browser. $user, the what? Me, you know, Firefox, the icon with the orange fox on the taskbar. $user, the what? Me, the taskbar, it's the bar at the bottom, where you click on the programs you want to use. $user, oh. And then what? Me, use your bookmark at the top, like you've done for the past decade. $user, okay. Now how do I turn it off? Me, open the start menu and click on the power icon, then shut down. $user, the what menu? Me, the hacking menu at the bottom left. This hasn't changed for years, and you've literally been using this OS on the previous machine, and we're able to do everything you've asked about doing for the past half an hour. Oh yeah, it did last that long just to read an email. $user, oh okay. Sorry, I struggle with computers, they're not easy to understand. It worked though, thanks. Click. At least they were nice, though it makes me want to pull my hair when a user just refuses to learn how to use basic things on a computer, after over a decade. Issues with Surface. User frantically calls in, needs some help with a Surface. Sure. Randomly stops pushing to monitors, and then shuts off. Look through Event Viewer, nothing there except for unexpectedly shut down. Cool story, bro. Check temps, nothing abnormal. Thing turns off again. Okay. This time when it came back up, the time was wrong. Okay, maybe a CMOS? Try to look at a few things quickly, turns off again. User is now getting frustrated at me. I see that he is pushing 3 monitors plus the Surface. I look at the specs, i5 6500, so cool, 6 years old, trying to push 4 monitors with 8 GB of RAM and integrated graphics. He takes it off the dock, and it still happens. Try to find something that I can blame this on, keeps happening again and again and again. In about a 15-minute period, it happens 6 times. At this point, I'm thinking CMOS, as the time gets further and further wrong. I break the news to him that I think it's a CMOS and most of the parts in the Surface are non-replaceable. Guy loses it. Sir, you live in California, I'm on the East Coast, remotely this is about all I can check, but I don't think it's worth sending to me, as I believe the issues is internal hardware, and it's not under warranty. Guy continues to lose it, till he hangs up on me, and a little while later, the president of his company calls, and asks the issue. Try to explain the issue to him, he gets pissed that a 6-year-old piece of equipment should be nowhere near EOL. Anyone else ever deal with people who think equipment should last forever, and that we should be able to wave the magic wand and magically fix everything? Why can't I get online? A short backstory. I was working in a large BPO IT service desk voice account. This story happened to my coworker who at that time was an experienced call taker. Our callers are employees and have hardware VPN at home for work. This is a short story since the call is short, but we were laughing at it after. This happened during a weekend shift, and there were not many calls coming in, and we're chatting when there are no calls. Then the call comes into my coworker, and the call was about her work computer having no connection while connected to the hardware VPN. After our basic troubleshooting steps, he determined that the issue is with their home internet having no connection. Then called went irate and started angrily saying that there should be no issue with their home internet, all while in mute he was just laughing and telling me how the caller speaks while, after some time, and my coworker conferenced in the caller's ISP to prove the issue is their connection, not the hardware VPN. While talking with the ISP, the rep said the caller seems to have an outstanding balance not yet paid, then they were transferred to their billing department. After being transferred, now confirmed she didn't yet paid her internet bill. Now the caller is irate to the ISP billing rep, now yelling at them about it should have been paid. That's where he ended the call and closed the problem ticket since it was out of our scope. We were laughing about the call after that. My little client machine is magic. The last transaction isn't right. What? The last transaction out of 6 isn't right. All the details are there except the branch code. That data is missing. Does it happen on our machine? No. This is yet another head scratcher from our client. Their machine is somehow just different, causing all sorts of complaints that end up getting fixed without us knowing what exactly was wrong and what exactly fixed it. Previous adventures include a program outputting the wrong result for an entire week. It worked on our machine. Various debugging efforts failed to turn up anything, and a recompile with literally nothing changed fixed it. A program literally went missing. Calling it results in program not found error. It's not listed in any object list. It returned as if nothing happened the next day, nobody knew why. So I chalked this off as yet another magical machine's bizarre misadventure. It really do be like that sometimes. But client doesn't care, the program isn't working, they want it to work. Gaining access to debug this client's machine is laborious bureaucratic effort, so it takes some time to get there. Funnily enough, we can send programs over without issue, so for the better part of the week I spent some time diagnosing what could possibly go wrong, trying possible fixes, compiling and sending the new program over. All the time my tester says it works on our machine, and it's wrong on client's machine. It's kind of difficult trying to correct something that is already right, but the complaints grow louder. Finally I gained access to debug it, and that's when I noticed something that for some reason escaped me. Somehow I've been selecting data from database with the wrong qualifiers this whole time. I select, then set the qualifiers I needed to select, rather than the other way around. A simple change in line order fixed it. But what confused me is how, despite the program being wrong, it managed to spit out 99% correct result. In both machines. I guess it really do be like that sometimes.